Dear students, we have seen in our subject intellectual property law, that is industrial and intellectual property law, various treaties, that patent cooperation treaty and European treaty in the unit 1. Then we see unit 2 also, and now we will see the third unit. We will start third unit, that is status of intellectual property in transit, TRIPS obligation, and Indian position, then the evidentiary problems in action of passing off. So today we will see this status of intellectual property in transit and TRIPS obligations, and what is the Indian position in that TRIPS obligation. So we will see that part today. So earlier we have seen the patent cooperation treaty and European treaty. They have impact on the local municipal laws of the nations, and we have to follow certain norms. Then we also seen what are the different difficulties that we have to face while making the differences of examination of the patent at national and international level. So in this third unit, the status of intellectual property in transit, the TRIPS obligation, and particularly studying the Indian position and the evidentiary problems in action of passing off, we will be having focus on the patent infringement. What is the elements of patent infringement and the territorial nature of patent rights, then status of intellectual property when there are certain ACTA provisions on border measures, then scope of ACTA, and then that is action of passing off, and patent infringement and transit goods, in transit goods, then relationship between the TRIPS agreement and the free trade and that Indian position. So and what is passing off, why it is required, then what is the evidence in passing of action, and how the passing of action arises. So this will be the content of this third unit of law of intellectual and industrial property. So first of all, let us see that relation between international trade and intellectual property. Enforcement of the IP has become a controversial topic because of that exporting countries point to increase the trade in counterfeits and fake goods as the primary factor, which destroys the market of the originals and then deceives the customers into buying fake and dangerous products. So international level, if such condition is going to arise, then there will be requirement of the stringent laws to protect the interest of the customers. So intellectual property enforcement are therefore viewed as the main remedy to restore the fair global competition and to facilitate the trade in legitimate goods and services worldwide. So in this unit particularly, we will be discussing about the infringement of intellectual property rights, then particularly patents, and what are the different obligations of the TRIPS that and related to Indian position. So the TRIPS is the main document or international instrument that gives obligations on certain rights and benefits and infringement of the intellectual properties at nationwide. So the main objectives of this unit is to understand the patent infringement, territorial nature of the patent's rights, then different elements of patent infringements, and relationship between TRIPS agreement and the free trade, and of course the Indian position under TRIPS agreement. So what is patent infringement? So till there we have seen what is mean by patent, how it should be registered, and how we have certain rights over the application of patent registration. Now, patent infringement is the commission of a prohibited act with respect to a patented invention without commission from the patent holder. So that means if someone use your own policy, your own formula without your permission, which you have already registered and you have a copyright or patent right on it, then if the person who is using this without your authentication or the permission has to pay certain remedy or compensation to the original patent holder. So permission may be typically be granted in the form of license. The definition of patent infringement may vary by jurisdiction, but it typically includes using or selling the patented invention. So in many countries, use is required to be commercial or to have a commercial purpose to constitute the patent infringement. And the scope of the patented invention or the extent of the protection is defined in terms of claims. So particularly if there is a right, there should be a remedy. So if example that if a patent is filed and in any other country, say United States, that anyone in the United States is prohibited from making or using, selling or imposing the patented item, while people in other countries may be free to make a patented item in their country. So the scope of the protection may vary from country to country, because the patent is examined by the patent office in each country or region and may have some difference of patentability, so that a granted patent is difficult to enforce the worldwide. Okay, so what are the elements of patent infringement? So typically a party that manufactures or imports or uses, sales or offers for sale patented technology during the term of the patent and within the country that issued the patent is considered to infringe the patent. Then the test varies from country to country, but in general it requires that the infringing party, product or method, service and so on falls within one or more of the claims of the patent. The process employed involves reading a claim onto the technology of the interest. If all the claims elements are found in the technology, then the claim is said to read on the technology. If a single element from the claim is missing from the technology, then the claim does not literally read on technology, and the technology does not infringe the patent with respect to that claim. So this is what a requirement, that if it was not practicing the patented invention, it was not performing any infringing act in the territory of the patent, it has obtained a license under the patent. So these are certain elements that are required to check and while deciding the liability of the infringement or the patenting. Now, what is the territorial nature of patented rights or patent rights? So it is commonplace to state that the patents are territorial and their protection depends on the national regulation of each country. So the patent validity and applicability is to be judged to lex loci. So both national intellectual property rights legislations and public international law, they should recognize this rule. They recognize this rule, and lex loci, the rule that is for to check the conferred rights. So United States and the United States Patent Act, for instance, that states that a person may be liable for patent infringement if he or she makes, uses, or offers to sell or sells any patented invention within the United States, right? Okay, we also see the Paris Convention, then we also studied the Berne Convention in first semester. We also studied the TRIPS agreement. I hope you may be recalling it. TRIPS is overall very much important in the Patent Act, so you have to go through it again and again. So the Paris Convention for the Protection of Industrial Property, Article 4, that says the enshrines principle of independence by which patents applied for in the various countries shall be independent of patent obtained for the same invention in other countries. So in TRIPS, the acknowledging such liberty and independence sets minimum standards and allows WTO members to adopt higher levels of the protection. Okay, now let us see some Indian position about it. Let's see some legal aspect of this patent and TRIPS and status of intellectual property in transit, that TRIPS obligation and our position in our country. Okay, so in recent times, the relation between international trade and intellectual property enforcement, that has become a controversial topic in international law. That intellectual property exporting companies, they are increasing the trade, and then there are certain cheating and all these things which are unfair to the trade practices. The lack of adequate intellectual property enforcement at municipal law, that also gives rise to such lacuna in the international level. So most of the developing countries, they take a different view as their goods and services are becoming increasingly competitive with those of developed countries' producers. And new and more stringent international IP enforcement rules seeks to introduce a new set of non-tariff barriers to the trade that will preponderantly hinder developing country exporters, even if agreements such as to anti-counterfeiting the trade agreement, that is ACTA, anti-counterfeiting trade agreement. Okay, so they do not directly bind developing countries that are not the party to the treaty. So implementing the new intellectual property enforcement rules in anti-counterfeiting trade agreement negotiating countries affects the majority of the goods traded internationally. So intellectual property enforcement at the border has the potential to create barriers to trade in goods not even destined to the markets of future anti-counterfeiting trade agreement countries. If you take the example, when applied to goods in transit, the intellectual property protection and enforcement standards in the transit country, they can cause detention and seizure even if there is no intellectual property infringement in the country of the production of destination. So in transit mode, sometimes the trader has to face the difficulties because of such laws, and some developing countries consider such enforcement measures as protectionist, and then the trade restrictive effects as contrary to the main principle of trade liberalization in the World Trade Organization. So anti-counterfeiting trade agreement, that particularly the anti-counterfeiting trade agreement is regarding the scope of border measures, and this version defines in transit goods. In transit goods means from one country to another country when the goods are going to their destination. So the version defines in transit goods as those under custom transits, defined as the procedure under which goods are transported under customs control from one custom office to another, or they are transshipment, and defined as the procedure under which goods are transferred from the importing means of transport to the exporting means of transport within the area of one custom office, which is the office of both importation and exportation. So this is what the transit mode. So where the goods are in transit, and if there is any breach of such intellectual property rights in the transit mode, that time the anti-counterfeiting trade agreement, some countries are taking action. So Article 16 now contains a fairly clear rule. Article 16 says a party may adopt or maintain procedures with respect to subject in transit goods or in other situation where the goods are under customs union control. So this is what the scope of anti-counterfeit trade agreement. So how it have effect on the border measures. So the anti-counterfeit trade agreement provisions on border measures extend the existing minimum standards under TRIPS. So trade-related intellectual property aspects, which obliges the World Trade Organization members to provide border measures only against importation of the counterfeit trademarks or pirated copyright goods. So based on the final anti-counterfeit trade agreement, Section 3, this was the final draft that has been taken into December 2010. Section 3 contains the main provisions of the scope of border measures. So Article 13 of this anti-counterfeit trade agreement, that scope for border measures in providing an appropriate and consistent with its domestic system of intellectual property rights, the protection, and without prejudice to the requirement of the TRIPS agreement. For effective border enforcement of intellectual property rights, a party should do so in a manner that does not discriminate the unjustifiably between intellectual property rights and that avoids the creation of barriers to legitimate trade. So further, this Article 16, Article 16 is decisive for determining the scope of obligation of the border measures of anti-counterfeit trade agreement. So Article 16 it provides about the border measures. Each party shall adopt or maintain the procedures of import and export shipments under which the customs authorities may act upon their own initiative to suspend the release of suspected goods. Where appropriate, right holder may request its competent authorities to suspend the release of suspect goods. Then a party may adopt and maintain procedures with respect to suspect in-transit goods or in other situations where the goods are under customs control under which its customs authorities may act upon their own initiative to suspend the release of or to detain or suspect goods, and where appropriate right holder may request the competent authority to suspend the release of or such to detain or suspect the goods which is in transit. So together these provisions determine the types of intellectual property infringements and the trade activities for which future anti-counterfeit trade practices or agreement parties must provide border measures in their national laws to determine whether the anti-counterfeit trade agreement mandates or allows the seizure of generic drugs in transit or several aspects pertaining to the scope of border measures under anti-counterfeit trade agreement are particularly relevant. The first subsection answers to the question of how anti-counterfeit trade agreement border measures apply to goods suspected of patent infringement. The second subsection examines how anti-counterfeit trade agreement addresses goods in transit. The third subsection then looks at other forms of alleged infringements that might affect international trade in generic medicines. And the final subsection that scrutinizes the anti-counterfeit trade agreement article 13 to determine which options exist so as to allow the countries to exclude from the scope of border measures those forms of intellectual property agreements or infringements which may pose a significant threat to the generics of transit. So now let us see the in-transit goods. The controversy regarding the scope of border measures under anti-counterfeit trade agreement concerns the treatment of goods in transit or in-transit goods as they are now defined shows that anything beyond the treatment of allegedly infringing imports was equally subject to disagreement. Interestingly, certain combinations of a narrow scope that covering only suspected counterfeit trademark goods and suspected pirated copyright goods and mere optional provisions on the transit and export would arguably have resulted in a treaty without a direct threat to generics in transit. So, and in Article 16 of the December 2010 Anti-Counterfeit Trade Agreement, the negotiating parties agreed that procedures must be available for customs authorities and right holders where appropriate to suspend the release of import and export shipments. On the other hand, the second paragraph of this provision states that a party may adopt to or maintain procedures for suspect in transit goods. So based on the permissive languages of these provisions, anti-counterfeit trade agreement does not obligate contracting parties to introduce or maintain the border measures against any from the goods in transit. So this again appears to be a significant improvement from most of the options that were earlier on the table, especially the perspective of international trade in generic medicines. So, given that patents are completely excluded from anti-counterfeit trade agreements borders, so measures against transit are merely optional. So, Article 5. So Article 5 in the December 10 anti-counterfeit trade agreement that contains three definitions that are relevant here. So first definition of the term in-transit goods. So let's see what is the in-transit goods. In Article 5 Clause 1 that distinguishes between modes of transit, goods under customs transit and those under transshipment according to Article 5 Clause F. This custom transit is the custom procedure under which goods are transported under customs control from one custom office to another. Transshipment is in turn defined in Article 5N as the customs procedure under which goods are transferred under customs control from the importing means of transport to the exporting means of transport within the area of one custom office, to which is the office of both importation and exportation. So these are some definitions that has been given under the draft of this 2010 December, and the leaked draft that has reveals these terms and their definitions are based on the International Convention on the Simplification and Harmonization of Customs Procedures, Kyoto Convention. Until the final draft, there were certain questions and then modifications has been done in the definition of goods in transit. Now, the typical juridical answer is particularity of today's question that distinct from TRIPS and ACTA, the explicitly allows parties to provide procedures for suspect goods in transit or in other situation where the goods are under customs control. So there are certain laws of each country for the customs and then maritime boundaries also, and they have to apply those also. Now let us see what is the relationship between TRIPS agreement and free trade, right? So although the TRIPS agreement affirms that one of its objective is to reduce the distortions and impediments to the international trade, intellectual property rights are by their very nature trade restrictive. In fact, the incorporation of intellectual property into the multilateral trade system during the Uruguay round, when it was a multilateral treaty in Uruguay, that has been livened up an old debate concerning the relationship between free trade and intellectual property. So there are certain arguments based on that. Numerous scholars have highlighted the existing contradiction between world trade liberalization objectives and protectionism introduced by the TRIPS